The ice cream aisle is crowded, but not all scoops are created equal. There's artificial dyes, gums, fillers, yuck, all hiding in plain sight. What if dessert could actually be clean, intentional, and still make you smile like a kid? In today's episode of the Dean's List, I'm sitting down with Dan and Kasey of the STIL, the Idaho brand proving that joy and wellness can share a pint. And if you're into conversations about building well, from food to community to conscious business, please hit that subscribe button. Be alerted of all the new episodes. I hope you enjoy this one. I'm Alison Dean. I've scaled companies, led global teams, and I'm a lifelong student of well-being. And yes, motherhood is part of that curriculum. After years partnering with visionary leaders, I know the future belongs to those who create with care. Welcome to the Dean's List. More than a podcast, this is a community of thoughtful founders, creative minds, and conscious consumers. If that's you, congratulations, you're already on the list. Welcome to the Dean's List, where we explore the art of building well. I'm your host, Alison Dean, and today we're talking joy as a wellness practice served by the Scoop. Dan Sell and Kasey Allen are the co-owners of the STIL, which is my favorite ice cream in Idaho, and they're building a dessert company that treats ingredients and people with real care. Flavors that feel nostalgic but new, thoughtful sourcing, and community moments that go beyond the pint. We'll dig into label truth versus mystery ingredients, balancing indulgence with intention, how to scale without cutting corners, and why a smile might be one of the most underrated wellness metrics of all. Dan and Kasey, welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to have you guys. Okay, so for those that might be new, because, not everyone is in Idaho. What is the STIL, and how did you guys dream this up?
Well, the STIL is an acronym for the sweetest things in life, and it is our ice cream company that we started in 2017. Really started working on it in 2016, but our first location opened in 2017, and we've been fortunate to continue to grow since then. In terms of how it kind of came up, Dan moved here in 2015, I believe, and he's a born and raised Ohioan. When Dan moved his family here in 2015, he and I met playing slow pitch softball and kind of found some mutual entrepreneurial interest. And we were working on a handful of different ideas. And Dan, having 3 kids, kind of asked me, like, where do I take my kids for ice cream? Where's the spot? If we go eat dinner in downtown Boise, there was like a Ben and Jerry's at the time, and there's some frozen yogurt. But he said, where's the local ice cream spot? And I'm a born and raised Boisean and didn't have a great answer for him. That was kind of the ignition for starting to think about creating the STIL.
I kind of love that. You guys both came from tech, right?
More or less.
Sort of. Sort of.
Well, I feel like, Dan, you've meandered into several things.
I've been fired from several jobs. That's correct.
Okay.
I should have took the hint that I was an entrepreneur after the first one, but I worked in real estate, meandered over to airport consulting, property management, then was an investment banker, then was a web developer. I had corporate finance in between there. So kind of the gamut. I've seen and done a lot.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, you have. Like when you came to this idea of, okay, we're going to do ice cream together, was it overwhelming to think about, given that neither of you really had a background in manufacturing, sourcing, opening a storefront, a retail environment?
Any of it?
Yeah, any of it. So what was that like?
It wasn't. So we had been working on a trove of ideas. We're actually working on an app when this one kind of emerged, but we had good backgrounds in terms of the business side.
Uh-huh.
We had a list of things. We had a document called Figure This Shit Out. Anytime we were like, well, we got to do that. How do we do that? We would just write that, and became slowly kind of a checklist guideline. We actually met some folks in the ice cream industry and some semi-retired folks, right?
Okay.
After meeting them, we're like, well, when you go out to eat food, your window is a lot narrower for being really impressed. Where ice cream, people are just happy, right? So we figured like, we got kind of this wide lane that we can play in and kind of do it our way. So I think it was a little mix of both.
To piggyback on that, the part of the story I left out at the beginning there is actually from our very first conversation about the ice cream idea. It actually happened over in Bound Crossing at Beer 30, and Dan had this idea, and from that initial kind of conversation of like, maybe we should do ice cream because it was just kind of a gap in the market. It was like 10 months. So we moved really fast from conversation to opening our doors. It was like a 10-month sprint. And I think we were just excited about it. We were figuring things out quickly and we were just moving fast. And I think in some ways, not having any preconceived notions was helpful, right? Because we could just sort of do it our way, to Dan's point, and just, hey, what are all the things we need to figure out? You think about something that's brick and mortar like that. Not only do you have to figure out how to make ice cream, but you got to figure out, how do we get a commercial real estate deal done? How do we engage architects and contractors and kind of all the equipment suppliers, all those different things that are more than just opening an ice cream store. And I think we've talked about this before, but our collective experience in the food industry as a whole was Dan was like a busboy and quartered chickens at Boston Market when he was in high school.
Yeah, I could quarter a chicken in under 30 seconds. It's all very impressive.
So there were definitely some disadvantages from not growing up in food, but there was also some advantages because we could just kind of do things the way that made sense to us and move quickly and kind of just forge ahead. And we were just maybe a little delusional, but I think it also helped us because we came at it from more of a business perspective, right? We were two kind of aspiring entrepreneurs. That was what we initially bonded over, was a shared interest in entrepreneurship. And instead of saying, hey, one of us grew up making ice cream with our grandma or something, and I've always wanted to create an ice cream business, we kind of came at it more from the standpoint of, we want to be in business. We want to start something. We want to start our own company. And we identified the gap in the market, which was local ice cream in Boise, right? And it was right as kind of the food scene of Boise. This is 2015, 2016, 2017, right? That's when a lot of the food scene of Boise was really starting to flourish. And so kind of caught the wave at the right time, recognized the gap in the market, and then just figured that we were collectively smart enough or capable enough to kind of figure out how to make it happen.
I think that's a really good point, actually, for a lot of other entrepreneurs, is like sometimes it's better that you don't know all the things because you can really lean into your own intuition and your own sort of past experiences to create something. So I like that. How did you guys decide how to like split the duties between you both?
I think it was pretty like obvious for us. Like we each had different skill sets. Dan obviously comes from like the finance background and he's a spreadsheet wizard. And so he loves to create tools and spreadsheets and things like that. I mean, you should see some of the crazy things that we have to like make that whole thing work. And then I'm much more, I guess, extroverted and had experience in marketing and branding and being in front of the camera person, as I cut Dan off, as you can tell, the talker. And so we just kind of had really complementary skills. I don't remember us ever like sitting down and saying like, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. It was just kind of like we each gravitated to the complementary skill sets that we both enjoyed.
Yeah.
And
with the list, there would be like discussions, all right, who's taking care of that? And we naturally kind of gravitated to things. When there's bigger picture items, we kind of share it. If you're talking about overall branding story or what do we want to do next, what's our roadmap, et cetera, like we both kind of contribute and discuss that. But when it comes down to like day-to-day tasks, we kind of naturally fell into what we had experience in.
Right.
Except for the website. Kasey actually built the website with, well, I've done web development forever, was pretty good at it, but I just didn't have time to sit there and write code.
Right.
So we just ended up using like a Wix platform. And
yeah, it was just sort of like we each naturally gravitated to the things that we were good at. And we were fortunate enough as partners to have very complementary skill sets that just worked out and we could collaborate where it made sense. And then also kind of trust each other's skill sets where we were like, hey, you've got that.
I mean, it's a very fortunate, to your point, situation, yes, because I don't think all founders or co-founders have that ease. So I guess this is a good like PSA for people that play sports together. You may find your entrepreneurial partner on those fields.
Sports are a good metaphor or a good, tie-in because it's a team sport and you got to rely on your partner and your partner has to rely on you and you got to make sure that you're taking care of your responsibilities. So
yep. Well said. Well said. All right. I want to talk flavors because, like I said in the intro, very nostalgic, but also very crafty and new and unexpected. So I'm curious, when you are both talking about flavors, and especially in the beginning, like what were you thinking was missing? So obviously, okay, you wanted a great ice cream place in Boise. You wanted to go to a shop, but it could have been easy to just like recreate mint chip and recreate a vanilla and a chocolate and, your standard fare, I guess, of what people would expect. unless you go to a Ben and Jerry's, when I think, obviously everything is sort of crazy. But what was that like, in terms of making those decisions of, okay, we're going to do chocolate, but we're going to one up that, or we're going to 10 up that, or whatever that is. What did that look like?
Again, it comes back to a place of ignorance, right? So like after we had our discussion at Beer 30, I went home and bought an ice cream maker on Amazon that day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if I bought Jenny's book or Van Leeuwen's.
Might have been both, yeah.
Yeah, or both. And just soon figured out that it's just a blended drink with air and ice crystals, right? So if it tastes good going in, it's going to taste good coming out. And then from an ingredient standpoint, Kasey and I, we thought peanut butter ice cream has peanut butter in it. So like we started going through that, and our philosophy has always been unique but accessible, right? So I grew up going to a place called Honey Hut in Cleveland. Very traditional shakes and sundaes, but very traditional vanilla and some interesting colors in the case. And when you see cotton candy, bright blue, that's not real. And we knew we didn't want to go that direction.
Okay.
But at the same time, I grew up going to Jenny's. Their chocolate would be a chili chocolate. They didn't have like just chocolate on the menu. And sometimes you just want chocolate, right? Because ice cream is nostalgia. We had a discussion actually last week about individuals in their 70s, 80s always come in and get butter pecan. I did some research, and that was kind of like the first unique ice cream when they were growing up. So that was the gumball, the cotton candy of that day. So that's like what they ate as children. So eating it now kind of brings back those feelings, right? So we wanted to make sure those feelings were still accessible while still like stretching folks. You mentioned mint chocolate chip. That's like one of my favorites, my daughter's favorite. But I didn't want to do that particularly, right? I didn't want to do that mint chocolate chip. Everybody does it. And I told my wife, I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to make it like chocolate mint. And that's kind of where our fat mints came from. Instead of like putting in artificial mint flavor, I just steeped in natural mint in chocolate, cooked it up, put it in. We tasted it and it was like, oh, that's pretty good. It's actually been a flavor that's grown on folks because people think chocolate mint, they're expecting that like toothpaste, that minty mint.
Ugh.
But you hit them with that earthy mint. So some folks at first are a little turned off, or like, that's kind of interesting, but this is what ice cream should be, in my opinion, right? And we kind of go from there, what is unique but accessible, not stretching them too far where they really have to ask a lot of questions about it, but at the same time, trying to be a unique experience for those folks.
We want like general awareness of what the flavors are, right? Walk in and there's tarragon and whatever. And someone might be like, I don't even know what that is, let alone as an ice cream. So trying to keep it, to Dan's point, accessible. But just funny anecdotally, when we first started, I remember we mentioned meeting some folks in the ice cream world. We went to this convention, NICRA, National Ice Cream Retailers Association. We went to their first, that was like kind of where we went to say, can we actually do this, and met some people. And about a year after we opened, one of the gals that we had met at that convention came into our downtown store, and we had, I think it was the cookie butter flavor, I'm pretty sure. The Biscoff kind of like cookies, right? Those like German shortbread cookies. She tried that flavor. I happened to be there, and she's like, how do you guys make this? Like, how do you get that flavor? And I was like, oh, we just like bought a bunch of the cookies and like blended it into the base. And she looked at me like I had 3 heads, she was just like, what do you mean you just blended? To us, it was like, oh, peanut butter ice cream should just have peanut butter in it. Or if we're doing an espresso ice cream, what if we just put espresso in it, right? And that's where kind of our ignorance almost benefited us, because it didn't occur to us that most ice cream is made using like these flavorings and these pastes. And, you go into a lot of ice cream production areas and they have these kind of gross, shelf stable, even if they say it's like all natural flavors, it's just like a flavoring. It's a butterscotch flavoring rather than making a butterscotch from scratch and then putting that into the ice cream. They're using these flavorings that are cheaper and easier and shelf stable and all that stuff. But that just wasn't kind of how we wanted to do it. To us, it seemed obvious that if we're going to do mint, instead of doing a mint flavor, well, there's a thing called mint, and we can just incorporate actual mint into the product.
I feel like now I can't eat any other mint ice cream because I feel like it's like one of those things that offends me now, when it's just like a fake syrupy mint, fake and
bright green.
Yeah. I'm like, no. So like fat mints all the way. One of my most recent new favorite flavors was my father's favorite breakfast. And I was also wondering how the heck you guys even came up with that.
We didn't.
You guys didn't?
Yeah, that's an easy answer.
No, yeah, that's a super easy answer. So we were really, really, really fortunate. We opened in July, And early days, you do whatever you have to as an entrepreneur, right? Dan and I were absolutely grinding, getting to the store at 6 a.m., making ice cream. We're there till 1 a.m. Dan having 3 kids, it was a big sacrifice. And shout out to Rachel for holding down the fort during those early days, right? We were like, okay, we need some help. And we had an employee that worked for us at the time who was actually the first Rhodes Scholar at Boise State, and her college job was working for us at the STIL. And she had experience working at a chocolate shop in the past. We were kind of leaning on her, and she actually connected us with the refugee community here. And we brought in Najla, who still works for us. So she's our longest tenured employee. She started in August of 2017, and she and her family were Syrian refugees who had come here. And she is absolutely knocked out of the park. Her daughter works for us now too. Her son works for us. And so Najla, I don't know if I remember what year, but there was a refugee restaurant week. It was something that Boise was doing and kind of just highlighting, hey, we have a large refugee population here in Boise, and a lot of them work in the service industry, or they've created food trucks or restaurants of their own. And so how do we sort of support and highlight the cultural cuisine that they are bringing from all these places around the world? And so when we were approached about participating in Refugee Restaurant Week, we asked Najla, what do you want to make? What's something that reminds you of Syria, reminds you of home? There's been a few different iterations. She's made a couple different ones. She did one with like rosewater, pistachio, like orange blossom.
We got to bring that one back. We haven't had that one on the menu for a while.
Yeah. My father's favorite breakfast was, she named it. It reminded her of her father and what he would eat for breakfast. And that's an easy one for us. But I think it's a combination for us in terms of different flavors. Sometimes it's one of our ideas, and it's something that you see that it's like, okay, maybe that's not a traditional ice cream flavor, but how can we make it into an ice cream flavor? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's one of our staff members, or speaking of Rachel, after school special, peanut butter and no-bake cookies was a flavor that Dan made to honor his wife and one of her favorite snacks growing up. So that one was a fun one because we got to give Najla kind of, hey, make whatever reminds you of home. And then it was so well received that rather than just the 1 week that it was highlighted for Refugee Restaurant Week, we've brought it back many times.
Yeah, you should continue to bring it back. But the one I'm talking about had halva in it. It had halva and pistachios. Yep. And I want to say coffee.
That was awesome.
I mean, it was literally sold out. I think I had a call before I went over to go pints because there was too many times where I would show up and it was already gone. So I'm like, if that's not a sign that that's one that should just always be around, I don't know what it is. I'm like, if it's selling out that quick, man, that is well done. Well done on that front. Okay. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but obviously when you're at the store looking at ice cream and ice cream labels, and to your point, like mint chip ice cream being like fluorescent green and all that stuff, obviously there's a lot of ice cream that's full of dyes. I know that emulsifiers need to be used. We can talk about that. Lots of mystery ingredients. So what do you think people get wrong about what's in their ice cream?
I'm going to go one step beyond that. There's some places where you get a super large scoop. You order a single scoop and you get these 2 heaping things. What people don't know is they're paying for air. You're literally paying for air because all ice cream is whipped cream with ice crystals, right? Inside there's a cylinder, there's a beater, goes around, beats in air, and then as it touches the side, it freezes. These tiny ice crystals form. They move back towards the center of the ice cream and get air dispersed, and you get that creamy ice cream feeling in your mouth when you eat it. In the same vein of these fake flavors, folks are like, oh, I get this heaping scoop. And it's like, yeah, well, you just paid $4 for a little ounce of cream and a bunch of air. On top of it, you get all these interesting flavorings. But that's how it's been done in the business forever, right? I grew up going to Dairy Queen. They can't even call their stuff ice cream anymore. I can't remember what. There was a thing where they don't have enough cream, or their mixture isn't classified as ice cream anymore. It's just
frozen treat.
Frozen treat, right? It's what people have grown up on. So it's been an uphill climb, to be honest, because as I said before, ice cream is nostalgia. So people think first of the feeling that ice cream gives them before they think of what's actually in the ice cream. You capture it more like we did with you with the flavor itself, that oh man, this tastes a lot creamier. It's a lot richer. There's a lot more depth to it. In fact, we were experimenting this week with cocoa powders because there's a global cocoa powder shortage with trees in regions in Africa that where most of our cocoa powder comes from. They lost a bunch of crop. We just had a powder and it was a little cheaper, and you taste it. It's it didn't have the depth, right? It tasted similar to brownie batter, but it's the depth isn't there. I think when you can hit people with that depth of flavor and just those layers, you can draw them in a little more and then start to educate them a little more We do a lot of deflection where people will come in and ask for one thing and we're like, well, we don't have that, but we have this. And this is what's
Right.
in it, right?
I feel like I was very surprised when you told me how much ingredients to you and sort of like the quality of the ingredients really are a focal point, though, because I don't know that it's billboard lights when you walk into one of the locations. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that element for what you guys do and like the thoughtfulness behind stuff, I do want you to talk about, because I think, to your point, sourcing things and the challenges with supply chain and how that can affect how you then bring in different ingredients into the shop. How does that all work for you? Because I think you're doing things more thoughtfully than other ice cream makers.
It's iteration and testing, right? And so if we're creating a new flavor, we have an idea of what we want it to be. I think of the jack-o'-lantern. We're coming up on fall here, and one of our traditional fall flavors that we roll out is maple bourbon pumpkin sea salt. So it's this flavor that we make every fall. I think about the first time that we made it and trying to tease out all those different flavors, right? So that as someone had a bite of it, they get the pumpkin, they get the maple, they get the bourbon, they get all of those individually rather than just like one flavor overpowering everything else. So sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out what products do we need to use in order to highlight those different flavors and how many times do we need to test it until we get it right. We're really big on, when we make new flavors, not just making a flavor for the sake of making it, but really making sure that we get it right. And sometimes that's probably to our detriment because it takes us a little bit too long to get the flavor out, because we're just like, it's not up to the standard that we have of like what that flavor needs to be. And a lot of that comes down to the product sourcing and making sure that we can get the right thing. You know, we'll just scrap a flavor entirely if we can't do it in a way that is up to our standards, whether that's ingredients or just flavor or mouthfeel or anything like that. And then we work with a lot of local partners. We're in a really cool local business economy here, an environment where we have some incredible producers. And so one of the really cool things about our business is that we get to support other businesses. We've worked with Dawson Taylor for years now. And so all of our espresso that goes into any of our coffee flavored ice creams, I think that's probably something people don't know, is Easy Like Sunday Morning, which is our espresso caramel, the nightcap on Eckerd, which has espresso, Kahlua, chocolate cake, toffee, coffee date, which is one of our vegan flavors. All of those are using espresso from Dawson Taylor. And our production team is literally pulling espresso shots out of an espresso machine to put into the cream base to do that. So they're one of our local partners. Our lavender flavors, we've had a partnership with Red Chair Lavender for years and years and years. We get those fresh culinary lavender buds, steep them in the cream base. So a lot of our processes are certainly not the most labor efficient, right? And that's always a balance that you're trying to strike too, is like, hey, how do we do these flavors in the way that we want to do them and with the ingredients that we want to do? But at the end of the day, we're running a business and the economics of everything has to work out too. It's always that balance of, we want to use the highest quality stuff and we want to do it in a way that sort of honors how we do it. I think of like sweet tea. One of our original flavors was this sweet tea flavor. And it's a flavor that we haven't brought back that much because it was such a labor intensive flavor to make, right? There wasn't a shortcut that was going to still honor what it was. And so even if people want it back, it's like, oh, we've had these ideas of like making a sweet tea reduction, you know, doing these things, but we got to kind of balance our way with the economics of running a profitable business, right? And that's a challenge. And a lot of people choose the shortcut way, right? But we've tried to stay true to that and pursue flavors and ingredients that match kind of what our customers have come to expect too. Because you're right, we don't necessarily flash it everywhere and say, this is how we're doing it. Maybe we should do more of that. But we just try to like create an awesome product and then let the product speak for itself, right? And I think that we have the reviews and the repeat customers and things like that to hopefully hang our hats on the fact that we've been able to do it.
100% you guys do. I just know that like for the wellnessy people, and I would put myself in that category of just, you know, reading the labels, reading the things, I feel like there's probably another audience. Okay, if there's so much that goes into, okay, we're going to actually use the real espresso, we're not using like a syrup or something artificial. Are there any times where you have to opt for a natural flavor, or do you avoid those? Like, what is your take on natural flavors?
In terms of like just the natural flavors, like the shelf stable stuff, or like, I won't even name the company, but there's a very popular company that supplies to a lot of ice cream places that's kind of their thing, is it's like all natural flavorings. And we don't use any of those. That being said, like there's certain flavors that have Oreos in them at our store, right?
That's
We
right.
have
Right.
Deja Vu, or we have a flavor called Trick or Treat, and it's an orange cream and Oreo. But I feel like those flavors are like the anomaly for us, and they're appealing to the season and things like that, right? There's
Yeah.
no all natural Oreos. Like, we'll acknowledge that. It's not like we're hand making Oreos in the back to put into our ice creams. So of course there are some exceptions.
Yeah. We just aim for an honesty, right? Our label,
Yeah.
On the menu, we'll say what is in it. So like the orange cream, it's aimed towards kids. It has Fanta syrup, and we have Fanta syrup and Oreos. That's what's in it. It hits a certain market. But yeah, I think there's a tendency towards like you can get too fine, and then you make something that doesn't exactly either taste great, or you sound like you're like trying to hide something. So we just try to be as honest as we can in our little section on our menu board of like what's in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously we have 24 flavors. Like if you're looking for something a little more on the holistic or, healthy side, or however you want to perceive that, there's flavors that aren't necessarily using the Oreo or whatever is such a narrow part of our offering anyway. So much of the things that we do, I was thinking about the fact that gluten in the last 10 years has become a big thing. Like the vast majority of our flavors are gluten-free, even the cookie dough, the brownies that we use, right? We work with Nosh in terms of getting all of that stuff to vegan and gluten-free, a lot of it, even though it's in our regular cream-based ice cream. So it's like an easy way to expand the offering to more people using higher quality ingredients at the same time.
I think that is something to applaud, right? Just the transparency element, because I think a lot of places are not as transparent, and you have to guess a little bit more, or you have to just ask very directly and hope that they have an ingredient list somewhere. So I think that is well said. And you have options when you walk into the STIL. You have many options. I mean, many, many options. Can we talk about, because I think that this is something to educate people on too, gums and stabilizers, and maybe Dan, this is something you want to talk about, but gums and stabilizers in ice cream, what do people need to be aware of? Like, for instance, I'll just give an aside. When I'm buying yogurt at the market, I will put back the one that says it has guar gum, and I will buy the one that says it does not have guar gum. That's where my head is at, where I can avoid the gums. I try to, but I also can respect if something's just, it's a thing that must happen. So educate us.
Yeah. So ice cream emulsifiers, the very old school traditional way was using egg. So emulsifier just helps water and oil mix. Everybody's ever bought salad dressing, they separate. So if you milked a cow and let it sit on a shelf, eventually those layers would separate out, right?
Right.
That's how you get whey and cheese and all this other yogurt, right?
Yep.
So to make ice cream, you're using the whole thing. So to make sure that mix stays together and the ice cream stays together, you have to have some sort of bonding agent and emulsifier. And you can use egg, and custard is when you use egg. So anytime you see the word custard, it means their emulsifier is egg. Typically any other ice cream, unless it's a French vanilla, like there's some exceptions here and there is some sort of gum or starch.
Stabilizer, yes.
Yeah, blending of them. So our mix we get from Reed's Dairy, and there's a little bit of a gum and I think a little bit of potato starch. So it's kind of like a little natural of both. Unfortunately, there's no way to make good ice cream without having a little bit of those in it, unless you want to make eggs, in which case that's a whole nother process, right? You deal with a little more risk of disease, et cetera, listeria.
And allergen. It's an added allergen oftentimes too.
Ice cream isn't a health food, but we try to make it as healthy as possible, right? That's kind of where we've fallen, working with Reed's Dairy, using their mix. It's a wonderful mix. They do a great job with it.
For your Eastern Idaho audience, they'll all know and love Reed's Dairy. It's an institution in Eastern Idaho.
They had on the shelf in Logan, Utah. I was like, oh man, Reed's is kind of all over now. So I would love to live in a world where like a starch would work perfectly, but from an industrial scale, like it's easy to make it in your house and have something that you eat right away, but to have something that will sit in a case for a week, and you unfortunately kind of have to play in these science bounds. And one of them is unfortunately using the healthiest gums you can find, I guess, if there is such a thing.
That makes sense. All right. For both of you, what does wellness mean to you?
I think it varies by decade. Kasey can go first.
Yeah, I was thinking about this before we started. I mean, as it relates to ice cream, I think there's a massive social component to wellness, right? And so I think wellness is obviously holistic. It's mind, body, soul, right? There's a whole encompassing element to wellness and physical wellness. But a big part of wellness, in my belief, is the social component. And I think ice cream is often something that people are sharing with others, right? It's something that is a social experience more often than not. Not always, for sure, but especially when you're going out to eat ice cream, you're usually doing it with family or friends or loved ones, or you're on a date night, or we see a lot of grandparents bringing the grandkids in for ice cream. And so I think part of wellness is that indulgence together and building community and building relationships through the shared joy of ice cream. And that's why the STIL, which Dan created the name for the STIL in the shower, where all great ideas are born. So the sweetest things in life. And that was kind of our mission with the STIL, was to create spaces for people to celebrate the sweetest things in their lives, whether that's people, memories, a good report card, victorious soccer game, whatever that might be, just meeting new friends or going on a date or something like that, right? And so that social component of bringing people together, giving them a space to indulge in a sweet treat, which we all need a little indulgence, that is like how I think this still really ties into wellness.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you.
Yeah. I joke, like before we recorded, talking about back issues. Wellness would be like being able to like touch my toes without my back hurting. But from an overarching like business perspective, I think the great thing about ice cream is no one's typically mad to get ice cream, right? We own a restaurant as well, and restaurants are a different beast. Like folks are, they might have time crunches, or they just have certain preferences. You have to eat to live, right? So you have to eat, but you don't have to eat ice cream. So typically if a person chooses to eat ice cream, 99.9% of the time, they don't mind to wait. They're going in for an experience, and our employees do a great job of that, from just kind of conversing and like, why are you here? And what do you like? And getting to know those folks. And I think overall ice cream is happiness. And I think that, to me, wellness is about happiness. You're on earth for a very short time. Why spend it angry? Not that anger is not a part of life, but try to be as happy as possible. It's wonderful to like serve a product that like, it's just happiness. When you eat ice cream, you're just not like, I'm just so angry, and you just eat, right? You can't help but like those emotions of like, man, I used to ride my bike and get this, or you tell stories, or like Kasey said, you're celebrating that thing. You're all together experiencing that happiness. So
that was beautifully said. Who can be like wearing a frown when they're eating ice cream? You know what I mean? Like, who can? I want to see that, actually, because I don't believe that that's possible. I do think that ice cream equals smiles, joy. When you're joyous and happy, you're more well. So I totally agree that ice cream equals wellness in a lot of ways. If we're just doing simple math, I think that we've just created that. So
it's also like a perfect food. It has protein, carbs.
I agree with that.
I had a buddy text me this weekend, and he was like, how early can I eat your ice cream? He's like, my son wants to go get it. We open at 11, and I was like, man, I think it's healthier than having a bowl of cereal because he's going to get it for breakfast. I think then like your average cereal on the shelf, right? Yeah. I think there's less sugar, there's protein, there's carbs. I was like, go at it. It's like, you make a good argument. I'm on my way. So, from an overall nutritional wellness perspective, I think ice cream gets kind of a bad rap. And I think it goes back to like how the old ice creams were made, right? If you have a good ice cream that's made with healthy ingredients, I eat it for lunch sometime. If we've had a busy day, I'm going to grab a couple micros and be on my way, right?
I support all of this right now. I think, yes, but be discerning, right? Because to your point, not all ice cream is made the same. So you do want to be cognizant of that point. But if you're going to walk into the STIL, at least, and maybe not the one that's the Fanta and the Oreos, but most of the other ones, you're in a good shape for having some kind of a nutritious experience. So I like that.
If you want a good ice cream for lunch right now, go get our carrot cake.
I had that one the other day.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. But it's hearty, right?
That's a meal. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a meal in of itself.
I had that one, but I had it also with the Fat Mints. I should have just had the carrot cake by itself, because I feel like the Fat Mints, it's a powerful
flavor.
I love it.
It's a strange combination.
I know, trust me. I know. I am pregnant right now. So, it's like,
there you go.
Yeah. With pregnancy, you just don't know what you're going to get. And I was like, I'm just going to make this work right now, because it sounds
baby needed
fantastic.
It.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Can you take us back to like a hurdle that perhaps opened a door, like a problem that became an opportunity for you guys?
I keep joking that we need a company historian or something to write down all the things. Dan's daughter is just starting her freshman year of college, but when she graduated high school a couple months ago, Dan's brother was in town, and that was the first time I had really like spent any time with your brother. And he brought up like multiple things, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that even happened, right? Like a lot happens in 8 years, and you compartmentalize a lot of it, or you just kind of move on and just whatever's in front of us. That's one thing Dan and I are sometimes not great at, is the celebrating our 8-year anniversary. We're like, hey, good job. All right, what do we got to do today? You know what I mean? And we struggle to kind of celebrate those moments. We're always just kind of like looking ahead to like, all right, what's coming up? But a good hurdle, the biggest one that kind of pops into my head is just the whole story and process of getting our current production facility up and going. Our Latah store, about 3/4 of that location is our production facility. And before that, we produced everything in our downtown location, which if you've been in that store, I see from the face you're making, you've been in our store there. It's not a large store. It's about 900 square feet total. And that includes 2 bathrooms, our service area, our dining room area, the whole thing. So we had generously 150 square feet maybe for where the ice cream was sort of made, and it was like a narrow hallway that kind of overlapped into our service area. We didn't know where this whole thing was going to go when we started in 2017, and so that's what we built out to make our ice cream. And so as we kind of had some early success and had the opportunity to open a second store, we knew that we were going to need a larger production facility to make more ice cream, and more so than even make the ice cream, to store the ice cream, right? Because the ice cream, it comes out of the batch freezer, which is like your commercial ice cream machine, as more of like a frozen yogurt texture. Mm-hmm. And then you've got to harden that overnight before it's hard scoop ice cream and kind of ready to serve. So we talk about 2 locations. And at that point we had started our getting into wholesale. So we were in a couple grocery stores and hotels and having events and things like that. A lot of ice cream starts being needed, and we just did not have capacity for that. So we signed the lease on our current production space in, I want to say the summer, it might have even been February of like 2019, knowing that we need to get this sorted as soon as possible. And we didn't open that space until July of 2021, because a small little world event kind of happened in between there, along with a bunch of other stuff, right? And so things didn't slow down for us during that period of time necessarily. From 2019 to 2021, our ice cream demands only grew, and we didn't have that production facility that we thought we were going to have 6 months later. It turned out to be 28 months later or something. And so we had to get very, very creative during those days of how to make enough product, how to deliver enough product to our other stores, just kind of being efficient with our production process. And so while that was a very hectic couple years of continuing to grow without having the sort of operational logistics to grow in the way that we needed to, we just kind of had to figure it out. And I think that that's a lot of entrepreneurship too, is just kind of back to our original spreadsheet, figure this shit out. A lot of entrepreneurship is just continuing to figure things out, where sometimes you have no idea how you're going to figure it out, but you just kind of have to have this underlying belief that you will. And so, yeah, we spun a lot of plates for those couple years and did a lot of maneuvering and a lot of dumb things, but we made it work until we were able to kind of move into that larger space. And now we're in a spot where we're looking for another larger space, because we've been fortunate enough to continue to grow and have demand and the need for it.
So in terms of unlocking opportunities, like that sort of obstacle, you know, in terms of just supply and demand constraints, was the thing that it unlocked for you just the fact that you both can get shit done no matter what, kind of a thing, like that mentality overall? Or was there something else that presented, do you think?
I think for that, it's just what you need, how do you meet demand, and how not to panic. Our philosophy is like the back of the house can be on absolute fire, but as long as the customer, right, you have this facade, this stage, as long as the stage is great and they have a great experience, like at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to meet. I think it helped unlock that, our overarching philosophy that we don't get too worked up. And personality wise, we don't typically anyway. I mean, we have our moments where we have to vent, right? But overall, we kind of approach things from an easygoing standpoint. But those days of just being that tight really kind of preach that, because we literally were making ice cream right there. And sometimes the back of the house wasn't on fire, but sometimes there was water leaking from the ceiling. And we actually had a fire when we built the Latah. There wasn't actual fires. Latah was like cursed for a while. The car crashed into it off of Latah. No matter what happens, you just have to
Figure it out.
Put your head down. And I've kind of preached this to my kids, my daughter going off to school. Sometimes life sucks, right? And some people curl up into a little ball. Not that you can't take your time, but eventually you got to put your head down into the wind and just take one little step at a time. And then that wind will subside and you can just keep going. Because that micro space combined with the COVID, right? Combined with trying to open up and figure out how do you open up a much larger production facility while still being able to serve ice cream, that kind of unlocked how to operate in the face of adversity. I think that's the big overarching message from our story, is just like, not that having experience in industries is invaluable. Certainly it is. But sometimes ignorance is also valuable because you can approach things a new way. Our ice cream is proof of that, or how we approach operations or other things in our company. That timeline is kind of an encapsulation of our overall operation philosophy.
We just had to like laugh it off and all the things that kept going wrong and just be like, the show must go on. Like literally, that's the thing about running a business like ours is we're open 362 days of the year. We got to put that out there. And aside about the car thing though, we joke 40% of our stores have had cars run into them.
That's true.
We have 5 stores and 2 of them have had cars crash into them. So be careful if you're at the Still. Head on a swivel.
What was the other store where it happened?
Our Nampa store.
Oh my God.
It confused gas, and we had a fireman coincidentally came in that day and he was like, this happens a lot more than you think.
To Dan's point, I think one thing we've gotten really good at through any experience is our ability to just kind of be like, all right, what's the next step, right? Like this thing happened and like stuff's going to happen and you can't panic. And like when we're the leaders of the organization too, like everyone who works, they're going to look to us for how should we think about this? I think about the early days of COVID as well, right? And you have all these kids who are in college or shortly out of college that work for us. And there's all this uncertainty. And it's like, we didn't have any more certainty or knowledge than any of them, but we still showed up and just were like, we're going to figure this out. I don't think we lost a single person during that time period just because we were like, hey, we're going to do this. And so you kind of project that calm and just that whatever kind of comes, we just look at each other sometimes and just like shake our heads and like laugh. And we're like, all right, like you want to do this and I'll go do this. You know what I mean? Like we just move it forward and like just figure it out.
I think that that's also very much akin to leading with wellness, honestly, because you're just letting things roll off you and you're just pressing on, as they say. You know what I mean?
We control what we can control.
Yeah. That sounds all very healthy to me. So, okay, cheers to that. So you're growing, you continue to grow. Are there things that you refuse to cut corners on as you grow?
Yeah. I mean, our ingredients, we have 5, soon to be 6 stores. I think we had a chance to use some other facilities as a continuous machine to kind of manufacture our pints, because right now they're all hand packed. If you say pints on the shelves right now, there's like a 50% chance my son or daughter packed them. But those machines aren't exactly conducive, at least the ones we were looking at, with using like a peanut butter. You're just not able to do it. As we grow, we're going to have to adapt those processes, maybe invent new ways, or we'll see. I don't know. There's a company called Graders out of Cincinnati, and they still do all theirs out of like 6 bucket machines, So it is possible. It just requires more individuals, which isn't always bad. You get to employ more people. On the front of house, just like how our employees treated. As we've grown, we have layers between us and the employees. It used to be the employees and us. And sometimes we were working side by side, or Kasey and I were making the ice cream. But now as you grow, as entrepreneurs, you need to work on the business and not in the business. Otherwise, it can't grow. So you have to make sure you bring some layers, some folks in. And we've been able to bring a guy by the name of Marty Zahn in. He's awesome, great experience in the restaurant business. And he's just kind of taken over, but he knows that the culture and how employees are treated is very important. Those 2 factors are kind of like the immovables.
Yeah, for sure. I would echo that. I think definitely on the team side of, just the culture. And we're really fortunate that we almost never have to put out job ads, right? We just have a constant influx of applications and people who want to work at the Still, because I think we have a lot of people who work for us for 3-4 years during college and they're like, this is the greatest college job. And I think it's just how we try to treat people, the kind of environment we try to create for our employees. We're really big on experience, right? And that's what I harp to them during interviews is like the customer experience is really important, but also the experience for just everyone that we interact with. And that is just as important for the team. So like, I want to make sure that we're giving them a good experience as well. We've made the very conscious decision not to franchise, for example, because we just feel like that wouldn't be what we want our brand to potentially become, right? You lose a lot of control when that happens in terms of who the operator is, who the managers are, how your brand is being represented, potentially even product control and things like that. So I think that that's an alluring move that a lot of food brands do, right? Is try to franchise as quickly as possible. And that's been like a very conscious decision on our part of, we want this to be our company. We're very protective of the Stills brand overall, I would say, and just how it's represented, where it's represented. We've definitely said no to way more locations than we have, right? We know what our brand is and kind of where we fit into a community. That's really important to us. We had a potential partnership thing this is years ago in Seattle. And we just had a disagreement with the operator there of where he wanted to put the brand, we're just this just doesn't fit who we are, and so thanks, but no thanks, right? Let's kind of stay true to who we are. We know when we look at a specific, potential locations, we have a pretty good gut feeling of does this fit who we are? Does this not fit who we are? And that's everything from the culture to just being part of the community in the right way.
Amen to that. Okay, so talking a little bit more about the team, what does a high-performing team culture look like, given that that's important to you?
I think it depends on the levels. As an ice cream shop, we serve beer and wine. A lot of our employees are college-age kids, and they're, transient employees. They're there for sometimes 6 months, sometimes 4 or 5 years, I think. I can't remember the record, but for those folks, high performance is just making sure they know their responsibilities and how to treat customers. We have all those processes in place, but they're also treated with respect, right? I've had a lot of interesting bosses in my career, and I've kind of taken all those things that really made me mad. And Kasey sometimes has to remind me, when we're trying to move process, be remember, we don't want to get to this point. You don't want to get too corporate. But at the same time, we were naive enough when we first started out, we'd be hey, we're a flat structure. Everybody's on the same. And you can't, there has to be an adult in the room. You have to have that person who's in charge when the shit hits the fan, that person takes charge. That's part of corporate we've kind of accepted. But for those front of house employees, I just want them to have a good experience. I want them to be able to know what a good boss is and what certain processes are and try to meet their expectations. Sometimes we fall short. I'm sure they have stories, right? But overarching, we're trying to give them a good experience with good pay and protect them as much as possible if they have bad interactions, because not every customer is perfect. 99.9% of the time they are, but sometimes, you have to protect your employees. So, and then from a corporate perspective, it's giving individuals the tools to excel, making sure their needs are met. It's not every need. Sometimes you have to make do. We're not a huge corporation. We don't have billions of dollars in R&D and to be able to invest in tools. So, like I said, we have to hand pack pints because we don't have big machines right now.
Right.
So there's certain things, you have to do. Sometimes the parts of the job, they stink, but it's a lot cheaper to retain an employee than to hire a new one, right? So you want to make sure they respect your brand, they respect your culture, they feel like they're treated well and they're compensated as well as you can.
Yep.
If you can meet those things, then you're going to have a good base. It's kind of that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you can meet those base needs of individuals, hopefully once you meet those, you can move into the more growth phase and giving them more responsibility and stretching them a little bit. And because they've been treated well, they'll go that extra mile. They'll take that pride. It's always shocking to me how much pride some of our folks have in the STIL, right? Even our front of house employees, they are on the STIL team. They will ride or die with our brand. That makes me feel good because growing up, I wasn't going to ride or die as a busboy at my job, right? It's I'm just bussing tables. But with our brand, the culture's been able to produce those feelings in a 19-year-old, which is awesome.
Making them feel empowered to some degree too, right? We're not micromanagers by any means. So I think that they feel like they're trusted to do their jobs. And we've just been fortunate enough that we've seen weddings come out of the STIL. We've seen lifelong friendships. It's kind of cool. Even our original core team from the 2017 to 2019, a lot of them are still great friends. I'll see them on Instagram or whatever. And they met working at the STIL. So I think you just give them a good environment to be in and treat them with respect, but also expect that they're going to respect the brand and us back. And it's kind of that two-way street. And then it kind of grows from there. And hopefully they start hanging out outside of work, and then they're all excited to come to work, right? And they think it's a pretty cool job, and then they refer their friends, and it's just like this wheel that gets in motion. And we've been fortunate enough every year, you feel like, man, we just had a great team. And like as some of them start to leave, you feel like you'll never be able to recreate that. And then like it just continues to happen. Dan and I don't try to force the culture in any way. Like we let each individual store kind of have its own identity. That's a big thing for us too, is, I always say, no shade to Jimmy John's, but like you walk into a Jimmy John's, every Jimmy John's is kind of the same, right? We kind of want each of our stores, they're all the STIL. They have similar elements, but each one has its own sort of unique identity. And if you go to the STIL in Harris Ranch, it's going to be very different from the STIL at Latah even, or in Caldwell. And I think part of that too is just the staff, right? They kind of take on their own identity. And it's been fun to see our different stores, the little subcultures that pop up at one of the different stores, and we certainly are like encouraging of that, of you guys be Nampa, right? Because you fit into the Nampa community, and this is what we want the STIL to be in Nampa. And that doesn't come from us. It comes from letting their personalities kind of come out.
Yeah. Speaking of community, because that's a big deal, I feel like you guys have woven that very much into the brand with like teacher appreciation days and local partnerships, obviously, to your point, give backs. How do you guys decide what you say yes to related to sort of community outreach? And how do those choices shape the brand?
We say yes to a lot, most of it. We say yes to almost everything.
Essentially, gift cards, it's great marketing, right? A gift card doesn't cost you anything. And typically people spend above the gift card. It's a win-win for both the company and the individuals, right? They get to raffle it off or give it as a prize, and they make money, and we get good marketing, good exposure.
Or new customers, or
Yeah. So from a micro scale, and then from a grander scale, so we have a couple. So ice cream for breakfast, first Saturday in February every year. When we first did it, we just donate our proceeds. The food bank is always involved in the food business, right? Health comes from eating well and being able to eat, period. So the food bank's been pretty important. And then another group is Game Changers. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. That's a special needs sports organization. So Gabe Moreno, when he was first starting it out, we kind of have grown up together. It's gotten bigger and bigger every year. He's got kids coming in from like Weiser, and he has such demand for his sports because, special needs kids, they deserve to play just like any other kids. And so we sponsor teams and go hang out and watch. And they've been able to split the leagues into kind of like a junior varsity and a varsity, where varsity is pretty competitive. Like these kids want to win just as much as any other kid. So it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a lot of fun just to be out there. My personal viewpoint of all the things we're involved with, like Game Change, is one I'm most proud of. They have a little board that gets together every year, just kind of like, how do we grow? What should we do? In fact, we'll be meeting in September again. It's a great organization. So I want to shout out to Game Changers, but we try to be as much a genuine part of the community as possible. They pay our bills. So just to give back a little bit.
True.
Call out a couple other cool things that we do. The local Big Brothers, Big Sisters here. So anytime they have a new match, they get free scoop cards to STIL. So kind of their introduction meeting for the new Big Brother, Big Sister can be, hey, let's go grab ice cream and kind of get to know each other. So we donate all those. And then the last couple of years, we've been fortunate to be part of the Life Vest program with the Ada County Sheriffs and the Park Rangers. So if they see a kid, or I think they even expanded it this year to adults, because adults are men between the ages of 18 and 41 are probably the most likely to drown. They're out on the water, and if they see people with their life vests, or if they see a kid wearing a properly fitting life vest on a boat, they give them like free scoop cards to come to the STIL. So just trying to like be as big of a part of the community as we can be, and giving free scoops for teachers, or bringing kids onto field trips. We have a lot of schools that they bring their kids for a tour of our ice cream facility, how's ice cream made and everything. Obviously we don't charge for that. We give them free ice cream when they're there, the whole thing. So it's just fun to be able to do those things, especially Dan's got kids in the community, and I grew up in this community. And so I have memories of the places that we would go on field trips, or, the brands of my childhood. Now it's weird when we get applications. I'll oftentimes get an application that says like, I grew up going to the STIL with and I'm like, that's so weird. They're 16. And since they were 8 years old, since they kind of first have memories, really, the STIL has been part of their family's traditions. And then now they want to work here. And it's like such a crazy experience that's our thing that we started, it feels weird to kind of square.
Right. That's beautiful. Like, so cool. Okay. A couple more questions. What's a question that you think every founder should ask themselves before they start a business?
You sure?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. Because it's funny, because a lot of people are like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And it's like, are you sure? It's hard. When COVID came about, we joked like, certainly didn't have worldwide pandemic in our business plan. Mine would be more of like, do you have the right partner? Unless you're a Steve Jobs type, right? There's some visionaries out there, right? You can name them, the ones that make a bunch of money. They're unique, right? They're the 0.0001% of the bell curve. Right. I think a good business partner is vital. So it's like, who are you working with? And make sure they're not an echo chamber, right? Make sure they're complementary, but they're not a person who, no matter what, they're going to agree with you all the time. You don't want that. 100% you don't want that. You want a little friction, because without friction, there's no growth. So that would be my question.
I've had friends who say, hey, can we grab coffee? I want to maybe start a business. And the one that I say, it's kind of to Dan's point, is I'm not saying this will for sure happen, but like, you should be comfortable with the idea that you will make half as much money, work twice as hard, and be 3 times as stressed out for the next 3 to 5 years.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that will be the case, but like, you should be ready for that reality. If you can sit with that reality and go, okay, I'm still in, then maybe this is for you. But I think entrepreneurship, especially over the last 10, 15 years, has really been glamorized. And like, it is awesome. Dan and I have so much flexibility. Like, if his kids have a baseball game in the middle of the day, he can be one of the few parents that are there. If I want to go play golf, we have that luxury that a lot of people don't have. So there are some great elements of being your own boss. But like, I do think it was like the in vogue thing. Everyone should be an entrepreneur. Everyone should start a business, and everyone, I think sometimes it's good to get grounded in like the reality of it, of like, yes, I wouldn't trade this for being in an office by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I feel so lucky that like I have the schedule in life that I have.
Yeah.
But like, at the same time, like, let's be real about the reality of entrepreneurship is like, it's roller coaster, man. It's ups and downs, and it can be hard, and it can be like more than you expect. So I think also just kind of having that perspective of like, are you ready for this reality of what it might be? And hopefully it's way better than that. And oftentimes it is, but
be ready for it.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to like really love the thing, right? So someone that's like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. You guys both were like, oh, you had a list of things, right? Ice cream was what you landed on, which was a good call. But how important do you think it is for someone, once they like figure out, okay, I see a gap somewhere, so I know that this is something that would probably turn into a viable business. Is that enough? Just knowing that?
We always talk about execution. I don't think seeing the gap, or like a lot of people like, oh, it's my passion. I think sometimes that's a danger more than something that helps you. I think it's more about execution. I talked to some entrepreneurs and they're like, oh, I have this idea. I don't want to tell you, right? Because they think like, if they tell you, you're going to go off and do it. I always preach like, unless it's like some super new product, and even then you should talk to a certain set of people. You should tell as many people as possible what your idea is, because 2 things, it's kind of market testing, because people are like, what are you talking about? And not to say that it's always a bad thing, because sometimes there's an unmet market, or you have to lead people to it. And also you might come across people that can help you. I don't think seeing a gap daily, everybody sees like, oh, somebody should do something about that. As far as like execution, that's where the rubber meets the road. It depends on your personality. Like, we were indifferent to the business we started. I mean, I love that we're in the ice cream business. I love where we ended up. But at the time, right, we were working on an app, working on a golf app. So a golf app and ice cream, there's nothing really in common there.
The Venn diagram overlap is very small.
Right, very small, very small. So it depends on your personality. You have to be passionate about it. But yeah, it's all about execution to me.
On the golf courses, we got to have ice cream carts that are stocked with the boozy STIL ice cream, right?
We might be doing something with the new Warm Springs golf course clubhouse here.
I feel like many people would probably get some ice cream while they're swinging around. Okay, we're going to do a quick thing I call extra credit, because this is the Dean's List. So I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions.
Okay.
You're just going to answer the first thing that comes to mind. One of them is a little bit more waxing poetic, but we'll get there at the end.
Right.
Okay. Cone or cup?
Cup.
Cup.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Flavor that you crave versus a flavor that you're proudest of making?
Easy like Sunday morning for Crave, coffee ice cream guy over here. Most proud of making. I'm going to say Deja Vu, even though I don't actually like that
I was going to
flavor.
tell you. Yeah, I was going to tell you it's Deja Vu.
Deja Vu can be a bit of a crowd splitter. I don't know where you land on Deja Vu, but those that know, right? And you either love it and your favorite flavor, or you're like, don't really like that flavor.
That almond extract flavor, like either love it or hate it.
So the story of that flavor was, it was like our early days. And in the early days, we really struggled to keep ice cream in stock because Dan and I were like literally making it like morning of, we didn't know how busy we were going to be and everything. And so our case was looking pretty sad. I just went into the back and just like kind of threw together some like leftover things, just like, let's just make something. And then it turned out to be Deja Vu with just kind of like some leftover stuff that was in the back of house. And then now it's like one of the flavors that we can't get rid of. So it's like probably our top selling grocery flavor, which is funny.
I don't think I've tried that one. Okay, what about for you, Dan?
I joke our ice cream flavors are like my kids. I have a different favorite every day. Parents understand. I really love our nightcap on Eckert. It's actually an employee-made flavor. We have a pint contest every holiday season. Whoever sells the most pints, and they can make their own flavor. And this one turned into a monster, and it's in the case all the time. That paired with a good porter beer, oh man, there's nothing better. And then what I'm most proud of is probably after school special. Ironically, I hate peanut butter and chocolate together. I like peanut butter. I like chocolate together. I do not like them, but my wife loves it. And she made no-bake cookies as a kid with her friend after school. So after school special is why it has no-bake cookies and chocolate and peanut butter. I made that for her birthday. I think that might have been like the third ice cream I ever made. Vanilla was the first, and I think Mexican chocolate. It's hard to go back that far, but I think Mexican chocolate after school special. So
you really need that one on the menu at all times as well. The Mexican chocolate. I don't know why that
Mexican hot chocolate.
Oh my God, that one is.
It's good. It's cold weather flavor, but yeah, I keep joking that I want to do a Christmas in July. Personally, I think our December menu, our December January menu, is probably some of the best ice creams that we make. But they're very Christmassy. Or they're very like winter themed. So we got to bring them into July sometime when we're busiest.
I support this, Kasey. I think you should definitely do it. Okay. What one ingredient you'll never use ever?
Bubblegum. I don't understand bubblegum ice cream. Number one, you can't make it natural. And number two, it's just like the kids get stale bubblegum and then you're left with just a mess. And kids do a number on our tables with brownie batter, let alone I can't imagine if we had bubblegum lying around. So
Kasey, you agree?
Marinara.
Oh.
Marinara. Well, good. Yeah, I don't want marinara.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
Dan wants to make a marinara ice cream.
You do?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I've actually
like
made a small version of it. Yeah, with cream vodka. I think it would surprise people if we did it right.
Like a vodka sauce.
Yeah.
I don't know about
we'll see. Someday it'll be in the case.
Okay. All right. I'm like, for your savory ice cream introduction, here you go.
Yes.
What would be your dream collaboration? Like if you could collaborate with a chef or a farm or some other local maker, is there another dream collaboration that you have?
I like Mother Earth Brewing.
Yep.
Even though they're Oregon-based. We'll do them, and then for a local, we'll do Lost Grove Brewing. I love Jake. He's a great guy. I love their beer set. It's so good.
Yeah.
They just do a great job. We could do some cool flavors with those beers.
I was thinking like LeBron James.
LeBron
the other
James.
That's where my head went, like collaboration with someone to blow us up. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
Taylor Swift. Like,
Taylor
can we do a
Swift,
collaboration with Taylor Swift? That'd be my dream collaboration. Would be with Taylor
Yeah,
Swift.
but you guys
right now,
don't need
Taylor
that.
Swift.
You're already blowing up. You don't need that. Like, can
We
you
gotta compete
imagine?
with Salt and Straw. You know, they've got The Rock.
Yeah, they got The Rock.
Oh yeah,
Or Taylor Swift would take The Rock.
Yeah,
she would definitely take the rock. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's a book that you gift or you recommend to people?
A huge proponent of the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go.
Oh my God, I love that book.
Oh.
The one section is The Waiting Place, because The Waiting Place, in my life, it's been such a big part of it. Like, I didn't start this still until I was 40. I read Inc. magazine from the time I graduated college, and I was in this waiting place of starting, right? I just need a little more money, or just like the right idea, or just like we talked about, it's just about execution. I learned that lesson in middle age. So if you're going to read that book, read about The Waiting Place, because it is a great lesson to learn. Don't wait. Well, you got short time. My motto is big swings. take big swings. I have a couple kids I mentor, and I'm like, just take big swings. You only get one shot, right? And not every swing has to be big. You want to make sure you're careful every now and then. But if you have the opportunity to take a big swing, don't be in the waiting place. Just freaking swing the bat and see where it goes. See what happens.
Yeah. Kasey?
I was going to say The Alchemist was the first thing that popped into my head.
Book. That's a great book. I agree. Both great choices. Way different wavelengths, but great choices. Favorite musical artist or musical genre? Perhaps when you're making ice cream, but not necessarily.
Kasey's Pearl Jam. He loves Pearl Jam. He can't get enough.
Okay.
As Kasey says, my high school career was full of grunge music. So grunge music has a special place in my heart. But when I coded electronica like Sylvanesso or Odessa, like if I have to do some thinking or just some work, that genre is,
Okay. I like it. What's one word for your entrepreneurial journey from each of you?
Mine's 2 words. It's controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos. I'll accept it. Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say fun. That's like all I can, it's been fun.
Fun is allowed, Kasey. That's totally fine.
Fun.
There's no wrong answers. Only the ones you give.
And I want to know your mission, if it was on a pint lid, in only 5 words.
Celebrate the sweetest things in life.
Harmonious.
Yeah.
I was expecting or hoping that you might do that because I was like, I'm pretty much teeing you up for that one. So I was okay. All right, very good. Is there anything that I did not ask you both that you were hoping we would discuss?
I think so. These are always fun conversations because you never know where they're going to go and the angles you get to share and talk about.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
Dan has a new rap album coming out.
I do, yeah.
He wanted to promote his new rap album. No, just kidding. That would be amazing, though. I think we should put one out.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past you both at this point. I'm like, sure, that seems aligned, and it could pair with some ice cream.
Amazing probably wouldn't be the word that was used, but it would be something.
It would be amazing if it was something. So yes, I think it would be amazing, you know?
Yeah, how you said the word amazing, be like, that's amazing. That's amazing, right? There's a couple different ways you can say that.
How can the world find you? Because not everyone can get the STIL, right? Are you guys shipping yet or not shipping yet?
We're not shipping yet, but if you want to be shipped to, we'll put you on a list of folks that want to be notified when we can ship. Aspirationally, we would love to be shipping.
Yeah, it's a space constraint thing right now. You need boxes and coolers and dry ice, and we just don't have the space. It's definitely on the tee, ready to be hit when we do.
Just to find us, I mean, Google's a great spot to start. If you Google the STIL, you'll kind of hopefully be shown the one nearest you, and you can get directions or leave us a review, get to our website from there, our website, or on social media at I Love the STIL, Instagram, Facebook, probably most active on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Find us in grocery stores. We're at a couple Albertsons and the Boise co-ops.
Yes. And the website, is it ilovethestill.com?
Yep.
It is.
Yep. ilovethestill.com.
Okay, great.
It is.
Dan, Kasey, thank you for being on the Dean's List.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Dean's List, where we explore the art of building well. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend who'd love it too. I appreciate it. If you prefer to listen on the go, you'll find the full audio version wherever you get your podcasts. This community is all about building businesses and lives that feel good, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. I'm Alison Dean. I'll see you in the next one.